Thank you very much for your passions. I understood, well, not only there were a big line waiting downstairs, but also there were tram problems this morning, transport in Brussels. So thank you very much and welcome to our 54th Brussels briefing, which, as you know, many of you are coming to almost all of them, is an initiative that we launched in 2007, CTA being the coordinator on behalf of the organizers, with the European Commission, leading by EuroPaid, so DevCo, the ACP Secretariat, who supports and represents the ACP African, Caribbean and Pacific group of states here in Brussels, their ambassadors and technical teams, and Concord, which is the platform of European NGOs for development across Europe. And of course, we are joined very often, depending on topics, by other organizations. Not only I welcome you, but I also welcome the people following by web stream. This is, you can follow live. You can always, of course, also pose questions to our speakers or just bring inputs as you feel appropriate. I will not be very long because we have already a delay, but we have a very important topic today. Actually, it was quite challenging for us as well to organize it, in the sense that, as you know, it's very broad. It was a bit difficult to focus, the discussions for this morning, because everything matters when we talk about sustainable agriculture, and all the SDGs contribute to it, as you will see in the graph attached. So when in 2015 the UN established 17 Sustainable Development Goals and 169 measurable targets, it was strongly with the aim to end poverty, to protect the planet, and of course to ensure prosperity for all by 2030. And this is not to developing countries, but it also applies to developed countries. It applies to all countries. The commitment is very strong at the policy level, be international, regional or national, in the case of ACP that CTA and the partners serve. But of course, it's very ambitious, so it's not very easy. You have to have policies right. Data, obviously, is a critical one, and statistics, but also, to bring the research, to bring the private sector, to bring the finance. And in terms of scope, sustainable, agriculture, as you will see, contributes to almost all the SDGs, some more prominently, but actually all of the 17 SDGs. So it's part of really the solution. What we will look today a bit is where we are more specifically on SDG 2, because as I said, it's already very broad. So our win, its implementation and its monitoring. And for that, we will get different perspectives from research, from private sector, of course, from my UN colleagues leading on that. And I thank you very much for joining us. But also, we will bring some of the cases from the field. We will have two speakers, the last speaker in panel 1 and in panel 2, so Stefano Prato, who is already online, good morning, who is in Lebanon actually and couldn't join us physically here, but he will make his contribution remotely. And our colleagues from CRS 2030 who are in Washington with also a partnership of leading organizations working mostly also on ending poverty and SDG 2 on agriculture. So without further delay, I invite you to... Translation is not working? Oh, yes, it is, actually. So please, yes, web stream, you know that you can follow the English or the French, obviously. We have both channels. And then here in the room, we have the Français in the channel 2 and the English, I believe, in channel 1. And 3, English in channel 3. Thank you. So the speakers, obviously, or any of you can speak any of the 2 languages you want, and all the documents should be there. I invite you as well, as I have the floor now, to look at our material, our research on the topic that we have done with partnerships. And I invite you as well to fill the feedback, that my colleagues will be distributing, and which is also online. You have all the results of the evaluations of each of the briefing online. We take them very seriously, not only for, the feedback you want to provide to improve, but also in terms of input. Many of you suggest topics, suggest ideas and partnerships, so we value very much. So without a delay, I invite, of course, my colleagues, my co-organizers, from the ACP Secretariat, the European Commission, and of course the director of CTA. You know, CTA is based in the Netherlands, and we have a small office in Brussels. So my director is coming from the Netherlands for this. I start by the Assistant Secretary General, Vivanu Nyasunu, from the ACP. Well, I don't think there is any of you in Brussels or around that will not know him already for a very long time. Involved on development, sustainable development, but also, of course, on trade. A strong background on policy issues, serving the ACP, the African, Caribbean, and Pacific states for a very long time, and also a private sector and finance background. We normally host many of these briefings in the ACP Secretariat as well, so I'm glad that you came this time to the Commission premises. And I thank you very much, the ACP being one also of the leaders with the UN in ensuring that the implementation of SDGs, and in particular SDG 2, is implemented. Thank you very much, Mr. Nyasunu.